"No man wants me," said Apache girl, and lonely rancher took her to live with him, but don't knowing. The sun had just begun to rise over the rugged hills surrounding the Apache village. Its soft, golden light stretched across the dry earth, painting the desert in warm shades of orange and yellow. The village was quiet at this early hour, with only the occasional crow cawing and the faint sound of water trickling in the distant creek. Naya, a young Apache girl of 17, sat on a large rock at the edge of the village, her knees pulled up to her chest. Her dark eyes stared at the horizon, watching the sun climb slowly into the sky. She felt the cool morning breeze on her face, but it did nothing to ease the heaviness in her heart. Ever since she could remember, Naya had felt different from the other girls in the village. She was not unaware of their whispers, the quick glances they cast her way, or the way young men seemed to avoid her. Rumors had a strange way of spreading quickly, and for some reason, a shadow of doubt seemed to hang over her family and her own life. Many of the village boys pretended she did not exist, while the girls, although not openly cruel, kept their distance. Naya did not understand why. She was polite, helpful, and had a quiet kindness in her heart, yet it seemed that no one wanted her around. It was a feeling that cut deeper than any physical pain, a loneliness that no laughter or company could ever reach. She sighed, brushing the dust from her worn dress. Her mother had passed away when she was very young, and her father worked far from the village as a hunter, leaving her alone much of the time. Sometimes she felt like a shadow herself, moving silently through the streets of the village, never truly seen. She spent her days helping the elders, gathering herbs, and tending to small tasks, but no matter how useful or kind she tried to be, she remained unseen by the people who mattered most, the ones who could have been her friends or more. On this particular morning, Naya had wandered farther than usual. She loved the edges of the village, where the desert stretched out in wild, open land, and where the hills rolled softly into the distance. Here, she felt a little freer, a little lighter. The rocks and the dry grass seemed to listen to her thoughts without judging them, and the wind carried her words in whispers no one else could hear. She paused at a small clearing where a lone mesquite tree grew, its thin branches reaching toward the sky. She pressed her hand against the rough bark, feeling its strength, and whispered a quiet wish. "I wish someone would see me," she murmured, almost afraid that even the wind might ignore her. The words felt heavy in her mouth, like a small confession of all her unspoken sorrows. Naya had always been drawn to the stories her grandmother once told her about courage, love, and honor. Even though her grandmother had long since passed, Naya clung to those tales. She remembered hearing about Apache women who were strong, brave, and respected, women who had the power to change their destiny with determination and heart. She wished she could feel that same strength inside herself. Sometimes she wondered if her destiny would ever allow her to feel worthy, to feel loved, or even simply to belong. As she sat there, lost in thought, a small rabbit scurried past, its white tail flashing in the morning sunlight. Naya smiled faintly, finding a strange comfort in the little creature's carefree movements. If only life were so simple, she thought. The rabbit had no worries about what others thought, no fears of being unwanted or rejected. It was free to hop wherever it pleased, while she felt trapped in a world that seemed to have decided she had no place in it. The morning passed slowly. Naya explored the hills around her, collecting wildflowers and small stones, something to remind herself that the world was still beautiful, even if she often felt invisible. Occasionally, she would hear the laughter of children from the village, their voices carrying across the open land, and her heart would ache a little. She longed to join them, to be part of their games and their stories, but the invisible wall that separated her from others always held her back. By midday, the sun blazed high in the sky, and Naya found a small shaded area near a rock formation to rest. She ate a piece of dried meat she had saved from her morning chores and drank water from her canteen, savoring the quiet moment. She looked around the hills, noticing how the light made the stones glow in shades of red and brown, how the wind moved the tall grass in gentle waves. For a moment, she felt a spark of hope. Maybe the world had a place for her after all, somewhere beyond the judgment and whispers of the village. Despite the beauty surrounding her, loneliness lingered like a shadow. Naya often wondered if anyone would ever truly understand her. She thought about the young men in the village, wondering if any of them would ever look beyond the rumors and see the person she really was. She knew she had a kind heart, a sharp mind, and a strong spirit, but it seemed that qualities alone were not enough to make others care. As the afternoon sun began to lower, casting long shadows across the hills, Naya started her walk back to the village. Her steps were slow, her mind heavy with memories of another day spent feeling unseen. She wished she could be like the wild animals that roamed the desert, free, unafraid, and independent. She wished someone would offer her the warmth of friendship, the comfort of understanding, or even just a simple smile that said, "You matter." She passed the edge of the creek, where the water sparkled like a ribbon of silver. Naya knelt down and let her fingers trail in the cool water, watching the ripples spread out across the surface. She whispered a silent prayer, asking for courage, for strength, and perhaps for a little kindness to find its way into her life. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of pink and purple, Naya returned to her small, quiet home. The village had grown silent, and the stars began to twinkle overhead. She lay down on the simple bed her father had made for her, staring up at the ceiling as the first stars of the night appeared. Even in the darkness, she felt the weight of being alone pressing down on her. But somewhere deep inside, a small flame of hope remained. Naya promised herself that she would not let the world's rejection destroy her spirit. She would continue to care, to dream, and to believe that one day someone might see her for who she truly was. She did not know what the future held, but she understood, even at 17, that life had a way of surprising those who refused to give up hope. And so, with the desert night stretching around her and the quiet village resting under the stars, Naya closed her eyes. She imagined a life where she could belong, a life where she might find friendship, respect, and perhaps even love. She did not yet know how it would come or from whom, but in her heart, she carried the hope that tomorrow could bring something new, something better, something that might finally make her feel seen. The next morning, Naya woke with a mixture of hope and unease. The memory of yesterday's solitude lingered in her mind, and she wondered if anything in the world outside her village could ever truly change. She stepped out of her small home just as the first light of dawn spread across the hills, painting the desert in soft shades of pink and gold. The village stirred slowly, with a few early risers tending fires or bringing water from the creek, but Naya did not mingle. She preferred the quiet edges of the village, where the sun warmed her face and the wind seemed to carry her thoughts freely. As she wandered toward the hills once again, Naya felt a familiar sense of calm in the open desert. The birds were starting their morning songs, and the gentle rustle of the grass in the breeze gave her a sense of peace. She walked along a narrow path near the creek, carefully avoiding the jagged rocks, her thoughts drifting. "Maybe there is more to life than this," she whispered softly to herself, almost as if speaking aloud would make the words more real. "Maybe someone will see me for who I really am." Her thoughts were interrupted by a distant sound, faint at first but growing clearer as she listened. It was the sound of hooves on the dry, dusty ground. Naya's heart skipped a beat. She had seen travelers before, but they were usually passing merchants or hunters. She stayed hidden behind a rock, curious and cautious, peering out to see who approached. A man appeared on horseback, riding slowly along the path that led through the hills. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair streaked with silver at the temples, and he wore a simple, worn coat and hat that shielded his face from the sun. He carried no weapons, at least none that Naya could see, only a long rope coiled at his side. Beside him trotted a young boy, perhaps 7 or 8 years old, clinging to the reins of a small horse, struggling to keep pace with the man. Naya's curiosity grew stronger. She had never seen anyone like him in the village. The man looked tired, his shoulders slumped slightly as if carrying a heavy weight. Yet there was something gentle in the way he guided the boy and the horses. Even from a distance, Naya could sense a quiet strength about him, a patience that seemed almost rare in this harsh land. As he approached the creek, the horse stumbled slightly on the uneven ground, and the man immediately guided it back to safety. The young boy almost lost his footing, and the man caught him just in time, steadying him with a careful hand. Naya noticed the boy's bright eyes and the way he looked at the man with trust and admiration. Something about their interaction struck Naya. The man cared deeply for the boy, and his kindness seemed genuine. After a moment, the man dismounted and walked toward the creek, loosening a small bag from the saddle. He knelt by the water and filled a metal cup, carefully handing it to the boy, who drank eagerly. Then, noticing the wildflowers along the creek bank, the man paused to pick a few, placing them gently in the boy's hands. It was a small gesture, but to Naya, it spoke volumes about his character. He noticed the little things, the quiet beauty in the world, and treated even the smallest beings with care. Naya felt an unusual mix of emotions. She wanted to run and hide, as she usually did when strangers came near, but something held her in place. Perhaps it was the calm strength she saw in the man, or the warmth in his gentle voice when he spoke to the boy. She remained behind the rock, silent, watching as he finished giving the boy water and a simple breakfast of dried meat from his bag. Finally, as if sensing her presence, the man looked up. His eyes scanned the creek and the surrounding hills. For a moment, their gazes met. Naya's heart leapt, and she ducked quickly behind the rock, her cheeks flushing. She had never been noticed in such a way before, not with kindness, not with curiosity that did not mock her. The man spoke softly, not knowing if anyone was there. "Is anyone here?" His voice was calm and inviting, not demanding. Naya's curiosity overcame her fear. She stepped out slowly, keeping her hands folded in front of her. "Hello," she said quietly, her voice almost a whisper. The man's eyes softened immediately. "Hello, young lady," he said gently. "My name is Jacob. Are you from this village?" Naya nodded, unsure what else to say. "Yes," she murmured, I live here." Jacob smiled faintly, his eyes kind. "I see, you were out here early. This land is beautiful, isn't it?" "Yes," Naya replied a little more confidently. "It is quiet and free." Jacob nodded, glancing at the boy who was watching her curiously. "It is. Sometimes in the quiet you can hear the world's secrets." He paused for a moment, studying her carefully. "Are you alone often?" Naya hesitated. She was not used to sharing her thoughts with strangers, especially ones who seemed so gentle and understanding. But there was something in Jacob's voice that felt safe. She shook her head slowly. "Most of the time, yes. People, they don't really talk to me." Her voice faltered and she looked down at the ground, ashamed. Jacob's expression softened even more. "I understand," he said quietly. "It can be hard when the world does not notice you. But I can see that you are kind and strong, even if others do not." Naya's heart skipped a beat. She had never heard such words directed at her before. People in the village avoided her, ignored her, or whispered behind her back. But this man, he was speaking the truth. He saw her, truly saw her. She felt a strange warmth in her chest, a flicker of hope that perhaps life could be different. Jacob gestured toward the path leading down the hills. "I have a ranch not far from here. It is a quiet place, just my boy and me. You are welcome to come with us if you would like. We could use an extra pair of hands and, well, it might be safer than wandering here alone." Naya's mind raced. She had never left the village before. She had no family nearby to watch over her. The idea of going with a stranger was frightening, Yet something in Jacob's voice, in the calm strength of his presence, made her consider it. Could she finally find a place where she belonged? A place where she would not be ignored or whispered about? Why would you help me?" she asked softly, unable to hide her suspicion. Jacob smiled gently. "Because everyone deserves kindness, Naya. Everyone deserves to feel safe. I have my own life, my own responsibilities, but I know what it feels like to be alone, and sometimes it helps to share the load." Naya considered his words carefully. For the first time in her life, she felt seen, truly seen, by someone who did not judge her or ignore her. The fear in her chest was still there, but it was mingled with hope, a hope she had not dared to feel in many years. After a long moment of thought, she nodded slowly. I will come with you." Jacob's smile widened, gentle but relieved. "Good, let us go then. My son will be happy to meet you, and I think you might enjoy life on the ranch more than you expect." As Naya stepped closer, she felt a strange mixture of excitement and nervousness. She did not know what awaited her beyond the hills, what challenges or joys might come. But for the first time, she felt a possibility she had never imagined, that maybe someone cared about her, that maybe life could offer her a fresh start. The journey to the ranch was long but peaceful. Jacob rode beside her, pointing out the hills, the desert flowers, and the distant mountains. He spoke quietly, telling small stories about the land, about the animals, and about life in simple, honest terms. Naya listened intently, occasionally asking questions, absorbing every word. The boy rode ahead, laughing when a lizard scurried across the path, and Naya smiled faintly at the sound. As the sun began to sink in the sky, casting warm light over the desert, the ranch came into view. A modest home, surrounded by wooden fences and fields of grazing cattle, stood quietly against the backdrop of the hills. Naya felt a small thrill of hope. This was a new beginning, a place she had never imagined she could belong. Jacob dismounted and offered her a hand, helping her steady herself. "Welcome," he said softly. "This is your new home, at least for now. We will figure out the rest together." Naya looked around, taking in the simple beauty of the ranch. For the first time in her life, she felt a flicker of belonging, a quiet assurance that perhaps she had found someone who would see her for who she truly was. And so, with the sun setting behind the hills and the gentle wind rustling through the fields, Naya took her first steps toward a life that promised hope, kindness, and a chance to finally be seen. The first morning at the ranch was different for Naya. She woke before the sun, the soft light of dawn filtering through the small window of her new room. For the first time in her life, she had a place to call her own, even if it was small and simple. She rubbed her eyes and listened to the quiet sounds of the ranch, the soft lowing of the cattle in the distance, the wind rustling through the tall grass, and the faint calls of birds waking for the day. Jacob had already risen, moving quietly through the house to prepare for the morning chores. His son, little Samuel, was sitting at the wooden table, eating a simple breakfast of bread and fresh milk. When Naya appeared, Samuel's face brightened. "Good morning," he said cheerfully, pushing a small loaf toward her. "You slept well." Naya smiled faintly and nodded, taking the bread. It felt strange to have someone ask about her well-being so kindly. Back in her village, no one had ever shown interest in her in this way. She ate slowly, savoring the warm bread and milk, listening as Jacob spoke softly to Samuel about the day ahead. After breakfast, Jacob led Naya outside to show her the ranch. It was a large, open area with rolling hills, grazing cattle, and small barns for the animals. The ranch smelled of earth, hay, and the faint scent of horses. Naya had never seen anything like it. Everything seemed vast, alive, and full of possibilities. "First," Jacob said, his tone gentle, "we'll start with the animals. They need care, and you'll need to learn how to feed them, water them, and make sure they're healthy. It will take time, but I know you can do it." Naya nodded, a mixture of excitement and nervousness in her chest. She had never cared for animals so closely before, though she had helped in small ways back in the village. Jacob guided her to the barn first, where the horses waited. He showed her how to check their hooves for stones, how to brush their coats, and how to lead them safely to the pasture. At first, Nea's hands shook slightly as she held the reins, but Jacob stood beside her, patiently guiding her movements. "You're doing fine," he said softly. "Just remember to move slowly and speak calmly. Animals can feel fear or hesitation, and they respond to it." Nea followed his instructions carefully. As she brushed the horses' coats and led them to the pasture, she felt a strange sense of accomplishment. The animals responded to her calm touch, and she realized she could be useful in this place, not just invisible like she had been in her village. After the horses, Jacob showed Nea the cows and chickens. She learned how to milk the cows, feed the chickens, and even gather eggs from the coops. Her hands grew sore from the work, but she did not mind. For the first time, she felt that her efforts mattered, that she was contributing to something important. Meanwhile, little Samuel followed her around, asking endless questions. "How do you know how to do that?" he asked when she successfully milked a cow. "Can I try next?" Nea laughed softly, showing him how to hold the bucket steady. Teaching him felt natural, and she enjoyed seeing his excitement as he managed the cow without spilling the milk. By mid-afternoon, the sun was high, and the work was hard. Nea's clothes were dusty, her arms scratched by branches and barn doors, but she felt alive in a way she had never felt before. She realized that work could bring a sense of purpose, a feeling of accomplishment, and even joy if done with care and patience. During a break under the shade of a large mesquite tree, Jacob sat beside her, handing her a cup of water. "You've done well today," he said quietly. "I know it's a lot to learn, but you have a good heart. That is the most important thing." Nea's cheeks flushed at his words. No one had ever said anything like that to her before. She had grown used to being overlooked, to being treated as if her presence didn't matter. Yet here, someone was noticing her efforts, acknowledging her value. It was both humbling and uplifting. As the days passed, Nea continued to learn the rhythm of ranch life. She learned to feed the animals before sunrise, repair fences that had been broken by storms, and even help Jacob mend small equipment. The work was challenging, but it also gave her a sense of independence and confidence she had never known. Jacob's patience never wavered. He guided her gently, correcting mistakes without criticism, and always encouraged her when she succeeded. Little Samuel adored her presence and often sought her out to share stories, ask for help with chores, or simply walk with her through the fields. Nea found herself laughing more than she had in years, enjoying the warmth of companionship she had never experienced before. Despite the hard work, there were moments of quiet reflection. Nea would often stand at the edge of the fields, looking at the distant hills, the flowing creek, and the wide-open sky. She realized that this land, vast and untamed, mirrored the possibility within her own heart. She could grow stronger, braver, and more confident here. She could learn to trust herself and others again. One evening, after a long day of work, Jacob invited Nea and Samuel to sit with him outside the house. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink, and the air was filled with the scent of wildflowers and freshly tilled earth. Jacob spoke about life on the ranch, the importance of patience, and the lessons he had learned from hardship. "You see," he said, looking at both Nea and Samuel, "life will not always be easy. There will be days that test your strength, your courage, and your heart. But if you stay true to yourself and work with care and kindness, you can overcome nearly anything." Nea listened intently. The words were simple, yet they carried a weight she understood deeply. She thought about her village, the isolation she had felt, and the fear of being unwanted. Here on this ranch, she could begin to rewrite her story. She could learn to trust, to work hard, and to find joy in small victories. As the days turned into weeks, Nea began to feel more at home. She found satisfaction in her work, pride in her growing skills, and comfort in the companionship of Jacob and Samuel. She no longer felt invisible. Instead, she realized she was part of something meaningful. One afternoon, while tending to the chickens, Naya noticed a small, injured bird struggling in the grass. Without hesitation, she picked it up carefully, whispering soft words of reassurance. Jacob, who had been repairing a fence nearby, watched quietly. He approached her, smiling. "You have a gentle heart," he said. "That kindness will carry you far." Naya blushed at the praise. She had always felt unwanted, overlooked, and ignored. But now, with each act of care, with each successful task, she began to understand her own worth. She was capable, useful, and valued. Even Samuel noticed the change. He would run up to her each morning with a bright smile, eager to help or simply be near her. His laughter and innocence reminded her that there was still joy to be found in the simplest things. Together, they explored the hills, tended the animals, and shared stories as the sun set each evening. As weeks turned into months, Naya's confidence grew. She learned to ride horses, mend fences, and even plan small gardens to provide fresh vegetables for the ranch. Each day brought new lessons, new challenges, and new successes. She discovered strength she had never known she possessed, both in her body and her spirit. At night, when the ranch grew quiet and the stars blanketed the sky, Naya often reflected on how far she had come. She thought about the loneliness she had felt in her village, the fear of being unwanted, and the weight of being invisible. Here she had found not just a place to live, but a life full of purpose, kindness, and connection. She understood now that trust could be earned, that courage was found in small daily actions, and that love and care were not always loud or obvious. They could grow quietly, steadily, like the wildflowers in the fields. Naya felt a sense of peace she had never known, a quiet certainty that life could be kind, that she could belong, and that she could matter. And as she drifted to sleep each night in her small, comfortable room, with the soft sounds of the ranch surrounding her, Naya held onto a simple truth. She was no longer alone. She had found a place where she was valued, where her heart could grow, and where her life could begin anew. Life on the ranch had become a rhythm for Naya, one that was both comforting and challenging. Each morning brought the sounds of the animals, the soft rustle of the wind through the tall grasses, and the laughter of little Samuel as he chased the chickens or helped with chores. Yet even in this peaceful environment, Naya could not completely forget her past. Memories of her village, the whispers, and the feeling of being unwanted lingered in the quiet moments, reminding her of the loneliness she had endured for so long. One morning, as she helped Jacob feed the cattle, Naya noticed something in his expression, a seriousness she had not seen before. He seemed thoughtful, almost burdened. Curious, she hesitated before asking, "Jacob, is something wrong?" Jacob looked at her, then at Samuel, who was playing nearby with a wooden stick. "There are things from my past," he said slowly, "that you should know, Naya, things that have shaped who I am and how I live." Naya's heart beat faster. She had always been cautious, even with Jacob. The kindness and safety she felt with him had grown slowly, but she had never known much about his past. She nodded silently, signaling him to continue. "I had a wife once," Jacob began, his voice quiet and steady. "She passed away many years ago. It was sudden, unexpected, and it changed everything for me. I was left to raise my son alone, to run this ranch, and to keep moving forward even when my heart felt broken." Naya listened intently, feeling a mixture of sympathy and curiosity. She could see the sadness in Jacob's eyes, the weight of loss that he carried with him. For the first time, she realized that he, too, had faced hardships and loneliness, something she understood all too well. "It was not easy," Jacob continued. "I made mistakes, and I had to learn how to be patient, how to be kind, and how to care for someone besides myself. Samuel depends on me, and I do my best every day. I took you in because I saw that you needed help, and perhaps, so did I. But it is important that you understand, my life has responsibilities and my heart has limits. I cannot offer everything, but I can offer honesty, guidance, and a safe place. Nea's emotions were complicated. She had never thought of Jacob as a man who had suffered loss or carried burdens. Her initial impressions had been simple. He was kind, strong, and patient. But now she understood the depth of his character, the quiet resilience that made him capable of caring for both Samuel and her. She nodded slowly, feeling a newfound respect and compassion for the man who had welcomed her into his life. As the days passed, Nea began to notice other subtleties around the ranch. There were letters tucked in a drawer, old photographs hanging in the small house, and small items that hinted at the life Jacob had once shared with his wife. She studied them quietly, careful not to intrude, yet feeling drawn to understand the man who had given her a second chance at life. One afternoon, a visitor arrived at the ranch, a distant relative of Jacob's who had heard of a young girl living there. The woman's presence was polite but inquisitive, and she asked Nea questions about her life, her past, and her family in the village. Nea felt a twinge of unease as the woman's questions seemed to probe deeper than necessary. She realized that leaving her village had not completely freed her from judgment or curiosity, and that people outside her small circle still had expectations and opinions about her. Jacob noticed her discomfort and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Do not worry about what others think," he said quietly. "You are here because you are needed, because you are valued. Nothing else matters as much as the truth you carry in your heart." Nea took a deep breath, letting his words settle in her mind. It was comforting to know that she had someone who understood her and supported her, even when others judged or questioned her choices. She felt stronger, more confident, and more determined to face the challenges that lay ahead. Yet challenges did come. One day, as Nea walked near the edge of the ranch, she spotted figures approaching from the distance, people from her village. Panic and fear rose in her chest. Had they come to bring her back? Were they angry that she had left? Her heart pounded as she ran toward the house, hoping Jacob and Samuel would be there to protect her. Jacob met her at the door, calm and steady. "Who is coming?" she asked, her voice trembling. "People from your village," he said softly. "They may have questions, or perhaps they just want to see you. Whatever it is, we will face it together." The villagers arrived, curious and cautious. They asked about her life on the ranch, her reasons for leaving, and her relationship with Jacob. Nea answered honestly, explaining how she had felt unwanted in the village and how Jacob had offered her safety and guidance. To her surprise, some of the villagers listened quietly, nodding with understanding, while others whispered among themselves. Through this encounter, Nea realized that leaving the village had not severed her ties completely, but it had allowed her to grow and find her own place in the world. She felt a sense of empowerment, knowing that she could speak for herself and stand confidently in her new life. During this time, Nea also learned more about Jacob's responsibilities and the challenges he faced on the ranch. She discovered that running the land was not just about feeding animals and mending fences. It was about planning for seasons, protecting the property, and ensuring that everything ran smoothly for the well-being of the family. Jacob taught her the importance of patience, problem-solving, and thinking ahead. Nea absorbed these lessons eagerly, understanding that life required both strength and careful thought. One evening, as they sat together watching the sun set over the hills, Jacob spoke quietly about his past struggles. "There were times when I felt that life had taken everything from me," he said. "I thought I would never be able to find happiness again. But over time, I learned that kindness, patience, and the willingness to care for others can bring light even in the darkest times." Nea listened, reflecting on her own journey. She had felt unwanted and invisible for so long, but now she understood that life could change in unexpected ways. She could find hope, connection, and purpose, even when the world seemed to reject her. As days turned into weeks, Naya continued to grow in confidence and skill. She became an integral part of the ranch, taking responsibility for tasks that had once seemed impossible. She learned to ride horses with ease, tend to the fields, and care for the animals with a gentle hand. Her bond with Jacob and Samuel deepened, forming a family built not only on necessity, but also on trust, respect, and shared experiences. Yet Naya also began to understand the complexity of human relationships. She realized that kindness and care did not mean that everything would be simple or easy. There would always be challenges, misunderstandings, and moments of doubt. But she had learned that facing these difficulties with honesty, patience, and courage could bring growth and deeper connections. One day, while exploring a small grove near the ranch, Naya discovered a hidden area where wildflowers bloomed in abundance. She felt a surge of joy and inspiration. The flowers reminded her that beauty could flourish even in unexpected places, just as her own life was beginning to blossom in this new home. She gathered a few flowers and carried them back to the house, placing them in a simple vase as a symbol of hope and renewal. Jacob noticed the flowers and smiled. "You have a gift, Naya," he said, "not just in your hands but in your heart. You see the beauty in the world and you care enough to nurture it. That is something very rare." Naya felt a warmth in her chest. She had spent so long feeling unwanted, invisible, and overlooked, but now she understood that her value did not depend on the opinions of others. She had the power to create meaning, to bring care and joy to the lives around her, and to build a life she could be proud of. As the seasons changed, Naya continued to face challenges, storms that damaged fences, illness among the animals, and difficult days when the work felt overwhelming. Yet each challenge strengthened her, teaching her resilience, patience, and the importance of teamwork. She realized that life was not about avoiding difficulties, but about meeting them with courage and a willingness to learn. By the end of the season, Naya had fully embraced her new life. She had learned to trust Jacob, care for Samuel, and manage the responsibilities of the ranch. She had discovered her own strength, the beauty of kindness, and the importance of perseverance. Most importantly, she had learned that being wanted and valued was not about pleasing everyone. It was about finding those who truly saw and appreciated her for who she was. And as she stood on the porch one evening, watching the sun dip below the hills and the sky turn shades of orange and purple, Naya felt a quiet certainty. She was no longer the lonely girl from the village. She had found a family, a home, and a place where her heart could grow. She understood now that life's hidden truths, about love, loss, and resilience, could guide her toward a future filled with hope, connection, and purpose. The seasons had changed once again, and the ranch had settled into a quiet rhythm that Naya had come to love. The fields were golden under the autumn sun, the animals healthy and calm, and the wind carried the scent of dry grass and earth across the hills. Naya rose early, as she had learned to do, and stepped outside into the crisp morning air. She felt a calmness she had never known in her years of loneliness. The ranch was no longer just a place to live, it had become her home. Samuel ran toward her, his small boots kicking up dust, a bright smile on his face. "Naya, come see the rabbits." "They built a little nest near the barn," he shouted, excitement lighting up his features. Naya laughed softly, a sound that had become more frequent on the ranch. "I'll be there in a moment," she called back, gathering the tools she needed for the morning chores. As she moved through the fields, feeding the chickens and checking the fences, she felt a sense of purpose that had been missing from her life in the village. Each task she completed, each animal she cared for, and each small improvement she made to the ranch reminded her that she mattered, that she could contribute, and that she had value. Jacob appeared shortly after, carrying a small sack of grain. He nodded at her, his eyes warm with a quiet pride. "The fields look good today, Naya. You've done well." Naya felt her cheeks warm at the praise. "Thank you, Jacob. I couldn't have done it without your guidance." He smiled, his expression softening. "You've grown strong and capable, Naya. That strength is yours, but I'm glad I could help you see it." After finishing their morning chores, Naya and Samuel set out to explore the nearby hills, as they often did. The landscape stretched endlessly before them, rolling hills, scattered rocks, and wildflowers that clung stubbornly to the dry earth. Samuel chattered endlessly, asking questions about the animals, the plants, and the stories Naya had told him of her village. Naya realized how much she had changed. She could speak with confidence, share her knowledge, and care for someone else with patience and love. She remembered the days of loneliness, the whispers in the village, and the moments of doubt she had felt. But now, standing in the open fields with Samuel by her side, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had found a place where she belonged. One afternoon, while tending the garden she had helped plant, Naya noticed a small group of travelers approaching from a distant path. At first her heart raced, recalling the fear and uncertainty she had once felt when visitors came near. But as they drew closer, she saw friendly faces, people who smiled warmly and greeted her politely. These were not villagers coming to judge her. They were simply travelers, curious about the ranch and the life she now led. Jacob stepped beside her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "See, not everyone brings worry," he said gently. "Some come with curiosity, kindness, or even friendship. Life will bring both, but you can face it with confidence now." Naya nodded, feeling the truth of his words in her heart. She had learned to face the unknown with courage, to embrace the kindness of others, and to trust in herself. The years of loneliness had not vanished entirely, but they had been replaced by resilience, understanding, and hope. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with deep oranges and purples, Naya reflected on how far she had come. She thought of her village, the people who had ignored or avoided her, and the life she had left behind. She realized that leaving was not an act of running away, but an act of seeking life, connection, and purpose. She had found all of those things here, on this ranch, with Jacob and Samuel. That evening, the three of them gathered outside the house. Jacob built a small fire and they sat around it, sharing stories of the day. Samuel excitedly told Naya about the rabbits he had discovered near the barn, and she listened, laughing at his enthusiasm. Jacob shared tales of the ranch, of the animals, and of the lessons life had taught him. In these moments, Naya felt a warmth that went beyond the fire. They were a family, bound not by blood but by trust, care, and shared experiences. Naya thought about the lessons she had learned on the ranch. She had learned that life was not about being wanted by everyone, but about finding those who truly saw her, understood her, and valued her. She had discovered that kindness, patience, and determination could create bonds stronger than fear or doubt. And she had realized that her heart, once heavy with loneliness, could open again to love, friendship, and purpose. One day, while exploring the hills, Naya found a small, hidden spring she had never noticed before. The water was clear and sparkling, and she knelt beside it, cupping her hands to drink. She felt a deep sense of renewal, as if the spring itself reflected the changes in her life. Here, in the quiet beauty of nature, she felt connected to the world, to the ranch, and to herself in a way she had never known before. Jacob joined her at the spring, smiling. "It's a beautiful spot," he said. "I'm glad you found it." Sometimes the most important places are those that are hidden, waiting for us to discover them. Naya nodded, feeling the truth of his words. Her life had been hidden, overlooked, and undervalued for so long. But now she had discovered her own place, her own strength, and her own worth. The ranch was her hidden place, a sanctuary where she could grow, learn, and belong. Over time, Naya's confidence and skills continued to flourish. She became an essential part of the ranch, managing the garden, helping with the animals, and even assisting Jacob in planning for the future. Samuel continued to look up to her with admiration, often asking for her guidance or simply enjoying her company. Together, they laughed, explored, and created memories that would last a lifetime. Nea also found a sense of peace in her relationship with Jacob. She understood his past, respected his experiences, and appreciated his guidance. She knew that his kindness and care had given her a chance to rebuild her life, and she was grateful for every moment they shared. Their bond was one of trust, respect, and mutual understanding, a family formed not by circumstance, but by choice. As the first winter approached, Nea helped prepare the ranch for the cold months ahead. She learned to store food, care for the animals during harsh weather, and ensure that the house remained warm and safe. The work was hard, but it brought her satisfaction and pride. She realized that life was not about avoiding difficulty, but about meeting challenges with courage, patience, and care. One quiet evening, as snow began to dust the hills and the ranch lay under a soft blanket of white, Nea stood at the edge of the fields, gazing at the horizon. The sky was painted in shades of pale blue and silver, and the air was crisp and clean. She thought of her journey, from a lonely girl in a village where she felt unwanted, to a young woman with purpose, skill, and a place in the world. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for the life she had found, for the people who had shown her kindness, and for the strength she had discovered within herself. Jacob joined her, standing silently beside her. He placed a hand on her shoulder, a simple gesture of support and connection. Nea smiled, feeling the warmth of family and belonging in that touch. She knew that life would continue to bring challenges, but she also knew that she was strong enough to face them. She was no longer alone, no longer overlooked, and no longer without hope. That night, as they gathered by the fire, Nea reflected on the lessons of the past months. She had learned that being unwanted by some did not mean she was without value. She had discovered that kindness, patience, and care could create bonds stronger than fear or judgment. She had realized that life could offer joy, purpose, and connection, even after loneliness and hardship. And as the fire crackled, casting a warm glow across their faces, Nea felt a quiet certainty that she had finally found her place in the world. She was a part of this family, this ranch, and this life. She had grown stronger, braver, and more compassionate than she had ever imagined. And she knew that the future, no matter what it held, would be faced with courage, hope, and the love of those who truly saw her. In the weeks and months that followed, Nea continued to thrive. She planted new gardens, tended the animals with care, and helped Samuel learn about the world around him. She built friendships with neighbors, sharing her knowledge and skills, and slowly, the world outside the ranch began to see her not as a lonely girl from the village, but as a capable, kind, and valued young woman. Through all the hard work, quiet moments, and shared joys, Nea realized the most important truth. A person's worth is not measured by the opinions of others, but by the strength, kindness, and courage they carry in their heart. She had once been invisible, unwanted, and alone, but now she was seen, valued, and loved in ways she had never imagined. And as the ranch lay under the soft light of the morning sun, Nea felt a deep and lasting peace. She had found her home, her family, and her purpose. She had discovered that even after loneliness, life could bring connection, joy, and hope. And with that knowledge, she smiled, ready to face whatever the future might hold, knowing that she had finally found a place where she truly belonged.